Look, I have been a transit operator for the Galactic Council for 73 cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Every species, every quirk, every bizarre ritual that sentient beings could possibly exhibit while riding public transportation. The Kleebacks always brought their emotional support slime molds. The Vornithan delegates insisted on traveling in groups of exactly 17. The methane breathers needed their own compartment. Obviously, unless you wanted everyone else choking to death mid-flight. But humans? Humans were something else entirely. The first time I noticed it, I figured it was just a coincidence. A human delegation boarded my vessel, the Luminous Wanderer, heading from Station 12 to the Core World Summit. There were 8 of them, professional-looking types in their weird fabric coverings they call suits. And every single one of them walked past the perfectly good seats in the front rows, past the comfortable middle section with the enhanced gravity stabilizers, all the way to the back of the passenger hold. Every single one. I remember thinking, well, maybe they want to sit together. Species bonding behavior or something. But then the next week, another human boarded alone. Just one guy, traveling solo to a mining conference on Helix Prime. The entire front section was empty. Completely empty. Beautiful bucket seats with lumbar support, proximity to the refreshment dispensers. Everything a passenger could want. He walked straight to the back. Sat down in the last row like he had reserved it. I leaned over to my co-pilot, a Phernaxian named Glix who had been doing this job even longer than me. You seeing this? I asked. Glix's eye stalks swiveled toward the back of the cabin. The human? Yeah. Why would anyone voluntarily sit back there? The engine vibrations are terrible. The temperature regulation is inconsistent. It is literally the worst section of a ship. Glix made that clicking sound that passes for a shrug among his people. Maybe he likes the view of everyone else's heads. But it kept happening, over and over again. Every human passenger, without fail, gravitated to the back rows like they were magnetised. I started asking around. Other operators on different routes. Station managers. Even the protocol officers who dealt with humans regularly. Same story everywhere. Back row. Every time. It became a sort of joke among us transit workers. Watch out, got humans incoming. Better make sure the back seats are clean. We'd laugh about it during shift changes, speculate about possible reasons. Maybe their rear ends were constructed differently and needed that specific seat angle. Maybe it was a religious thing. Maybe they were all just really paranoid about someone sitting behind them. That last theory actually started gaining traction, until someone pointed out that if they were worried about threats from behind, sitting in the back made literally no sense. Now everyone was in front of them. Unless they were actually worried about what was in front. But what could possibly be threatening about the front of a transport vessel? Then came the incident on Station 47. I wasn't there personally, but the recording spread through every transit hub in the sector within hours. A mixed-species shuttle, routine commuter run, mostly Glibner heading home after a shift to the processing plants. And 6 humans, all sitting in the back. Naturally, the flight was completely normal for the first 20 minutes. Boring, actually. Just the usual hum of engines, passengers reading or sleeping or doing whatever passengers do. Then the pilot's console started screaming. Engine failure. Catastrophic. Both primary and secondary systems corrupted by some kind of electrical surge. The pilot, a veteran Tulox with 40 years experience, immediately began emergency protocols. Restart attempts. Power reroutes. Anything to regain control. Nothing worked. The shuttle started losing altitude fast. Alarms blaring. Passengers panicking. Everyone scrambling for crash restraints. The pilot was on comms with emergency services, but they were too far out. No way to reach them in time. Best case scenario, a hard crash landing in an asteroid field. Worst case scenario, becoming a very expensive fireball. And you know what the humans did? Those 6 humans in the back. They didn't panic, didn't scream, didn't pray to their various deities or start recording goodbye messages for loved ones. Instead, they unbuckled, stood up, and started moving through the cabin with a strange, focused calm that made everyone else fall silent and watch. One of them, a woman with short red hair, reached the cockpit first. I'm Lieutenant Barnes, Earth Transit Authority, she announced. I have secondary piloting certifications. Tell me what you need. The Tulloch's pilot just stared at her. This is a completely different control system than anything Earth uses. How could you possibly? Tell me what you need, she repeated, sharper this time. The other 5 humans were already at work. One was ripping access panels from the walls, exposing power conduits underneath. Another was shouting technical specifications I didn't even understand, something about rerouting auxiliary power through the environmental systems. A third was at the emergency equipment locker, pulling out tools and tossing them to the others like they'd rehearsed this exact scenario. They hadn't rehearsed this scenario. This was completely improvised. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. The red-haired woman, Barnes, slid into the co-pilot's seat without waiting for permission. Her hands moved across the control interface, like she had been flying galactic council vessels her entire life. Auxiliary thrusters still responding? She asked. Barely, the Tulloch's pilot gasped. Maybe 10% capacity, but without main engines we cannot. We don't need main engines for a controlled descent, Barnes interrupted. We just need enough thrust to keep us from spinning. She pointed at another human, a guy with dark skin and engineering patches on his jacket. How long until you can give me power? 2 minutes if I bypass the safety limiters, he called back, elbow deep in exposed wiring. 3 if you want to avoid setting everything on fire. Give me 2.5, Barnes said. We don't have 3. The pilot looked between them, eye stalks quivering with stress or confusion, or maybe both. This is insane. You cannot just bypass limiters on a system you have never. Watch us, Barnes said flatly. And I swear, every recording from every angle shows the same thing. Those humans moved like a single organism. No arguing. No confusion about who was in charge or what needed doing. They just worked, fast, focused, completely synchronized. When one human needed a tool, another was already handing it over. When Barnes called for adjustments, the engineering guy was already making them. The shuttle was still falling. Alarms still screaming. Other passengers still absolutely convinced they were about to die. But somehow, watching those humans work, a strange calm started spreading through the cabin. Like maybe, just maybe, they actually knew what they were doing. Power restored to auxiliary grid, the engineering human shouted. Barnes's hands flew across the controls. The shuttle shuddered, lurched sideways, then slowly, agonizingly slowly, began to level out. Not climbing, still descending, but the deadly spin had stopped. They had control. Barely. But they had it. There's a landing pad on asteroid K-19, the Tulloch pilot said, his voice shaking. But it is designed for cargo haulers, not passenger shuttles. The approach angle is... I see it, Barnes said. Her eyes never left the display. Everyone strap in. This is going to be rough. Rough was an understatement. The shuttle hit the landing pad hard enough to crack the hull, plating, and blow out half the landing gear. Passengers were slammed into their restraints, luggage flying everywhere. Someone's emotional support slime mold splattered across 3 rows of seats. But they were down. They were alive. Emergency crews were already rushing towards them. And when the passengers evacuated, when station security began reviewing what had happened, they asked the obvious question. How did a random group of human passengers happen to include a trained pilot and 5 people with advanced engineering knowledge? Barnes just shrugged. We're not special. Most humans have some kind of emergency training. School buses, you know. We practice this stuff. School buses. They practiced emergency crash procedures on vehicles designed to transport children. As a normal, routine part of their education. What kind of species does that? But it gets better or worse, depending on how you look at it. Because when the investigators dug deeper, they found something that made every transit authority in the galaxy go completely silent. There's a reason humans always sit in the back. A real, documented, statistical reason that humans have known about for centuries. In crashes, especially crashes involving flying vehicles, the back of the vessel has the highest survival rate. Not by a huge margin, maybe 10 or 15% better than front seats, but enough to matter. Enough that humans, somewhere in their evolutionary development, turn it into instinct. Sit in the back. Always sit in the back. Because when things go wrong, and apparently humans always assume things will go wrong, that is where you have the best chance. They are not being paranoid. They are not following some strange ritual. They are making a calculated survival decision every single time they board a transport. Every single time. Like they expect disaster and are already planning how to survive it before they even buckle up. The report went out to every transit operator, every station manager, every pilot in the registered networks. Human passengers will preferentially select rear seating. This is normal behavior. Do not be alarmed. Do not be alarmed? How could anyone not be alarmed? This meant that every human walking around, going about their normal daily business, was constantly running threat assessments and survival calculations in their heads. Not consciously, maybe, but deep enough that it shaped their behavior. Glix read the report 3 times before looking at me. So, when humans board your vessel, they're already planning for it to crash. I finished. Every time. And that human woman, Barnes, she just happened to have pilot training. According to the follow-up interviews, she flies cargo shuttles on weekends. For fun. I let that sink in. She practices emergency procedures for recreation. We sat there in silence for a long moment. Then Glix made that clicking sound again, but this time it wasn't a shrug. It was the Thrinaxian equivalent of nervous laughter. I'm never complaining about humans taking the back seats again, he said. Agreed. I pulled up the manifest for our next flight. 6 human passengers scheduled. In fact, I'm going to make sure those back seats are in perfect condition. Best maintained section of the ship. Good idea. Because here is what I learned after 73 cycles of flying passengers across the galaxy. Every species has its quirks, strange habits, and inexplicable behaviors. But humans? Humans don't have quirks. They have survival strategies that only look like quirks until everything goes wrong. And then, when crisis hits, when systems fail and death is second away, those strange humans in the back seat stand up and save everyone. So yes, humans always sit in the back. And now that I know why, now that every transit operator in the galaxy knows why, we are perfectly fine with that arrangement. In fact, we are grateful. Because if something ever does go wrong on my vessel, I want those calculated, prepared, constantly planning humans as close to the emergency equipment as possible. The back of the ship is theirs. Forever. They earned it. If this story entertained or taught you something, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow and bring you more stories like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.